Lola, are you ready to podcast? Meow. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Emily. I'm Slow Fashion Rebel on Instagram and YouTube, and this is my kitty cat Lola. I just recorded for like half an hour, or thought that I was recording, and turns out that I wasn't, so that sucks. This is the Occhiello sweater by My Handmade Closet. It fits well, which is awesome because most of the time I have issues with making things that are too big by accident. So that felt like a huge achievement. One weird thing that I'm not into about the fit is that there seems to be a lot of extra room in the front, and if I had much larger breasts than I do now, I would fill it out a little bit and it would like drape on the front side of my body a little bit better, which is actually, I think, a weird thing about this sweater because for the size of my torso, I already am quite busty, but if you're bustier than I am, this is a great pattern for you. I bought this yarn because it was affordable, and I don't have very many sweaters in my closet, and so I wanted to use a yarn that was cheap so that I could just have more sweaters. I don't think that that was wrong, but later after I bought this, I learned a lot more about Cascade, their policies, you know, the way they treat their customers, where they source their yarn from, and how the animals are treated, and not to mention the owner made some comments that were intolerant towards gay people, which I don't think is okay. So it has been feeling really weird for me to like announce and broadcast and that I've been using Cascade yarn. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm aware of the political issues surrounding Cascade, and I don't intend to spend my dollars on that company anymore. But it has nothing to do with this particular yarn. I enjoyed working with it. It was like, it's a wool and silk yarn. It's 15% raw silk, which is why I bought it. I'm a sucker for raw silk. One thing I didn't love about it was that it was like not super elastic, and that has a tendency to hurt my hands when working with it, but it wasn't like so inelastic that it was prohibitive of me working on this project. But it did go a little slow because I did need to put it down sometimes. Moving on to whips, I've been mostly gift knitting for Christmas. I've been, aside from gift knitting, working on the Mitten Garland Advent Calendar by Kathy Lewinsky. You may have heard of this through Jacqueline from Brooklyn Knit Folk or Julie from Sweet Sparrow Yarns. Jacqueline is the person who I heard about it through, and that was last year. And last year around this time, I started the Advent Calendar and got through 5 of them, but within the last year I have grown a lot as an artist and a designer. If you don't know, I've been going to school for graphic design, and that has influenced my creative choices a great deal. Long story short, I decided to kind of start over, not entirely start over. The thing is, I'm not crazy about my yarn choices for these 3. I know that they look cute here right now all together. I felt like this green being so light and warm and this green being so dark and cool didn't really jive together for me. And also some of this color work looks really messy because this was like some of my first color work, and this was actually the project that helped me kind of figure out how to do it like the right way. And in the last year I've been practicing a lot, and obviously like I'm able to do it now. The ones that worked out the best were these 2, and it was because the dark green and the gray yarn are the same yarn base. I just felt like it would be easier for me moving forward to make them look more cohesive if I limited the color palette and used all the same base. So I went to Pearl Soho and got a little bit more yarn because I was gonna run out of this gray, and I also needed a white because this white was my own hand spun. And not to be like hypercritical of myself, but like it was the it's my first hand spun, so it's gonna look a little funky. So it looked a little too funky for my taste. Also, like when I was knitting with this, it kept breaking, you know, because again, it was my first hand spun and I didn't do like the most amazing job. Like it's the first time I've ever done it. So this is my second attempt, and you can see the difference between this one and this one. The color work here is so much cleaner looking. It was one of those things where I knew I could do a better job, so I just like did it. This has been kind of a distraction project because I have a lot of things that I have to do and a lot of gift knitting to do, and a lot of sweater projects that are on the to-do list, but I just needed like a little project that was like a palette cleanser, and there's no particular deadline for this. So it's just a little bit of like self-soothing for me. That's really important. So make sure you're taking time for yourself, because we spend a lot of mental and physical and emotional energy on other people, you know, this month in our culture, and that's wonderful, but you can't neglect your own mental and emotional health. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to coming back to it year after year. Because there's no deadline, it might take me a very, very long time to get it done, but it'll be an heirloom, so that's okay. I cast on Pearls by Helga Isaker. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I found this pattern and I put it in my queue, and I bought the yarn in June. So this was not on my list next to work on. It doesn't feel like it's a distraction project to me because it's one of the ones that's been in my mind with intention to start on like for literally 6 months. So I feel okay about like putting other intended projects to the side because it's been a long time coming, this one. Fun fact, a couple of podcasts ago, in the one called Return of the Podcast, 2 podcasts ago, I chatted about my swatching method. If I'm feeling bored with a project, I won't necessarily cast on for something new, but I will swatch, which sort of satisfies the urge to do something else, but also preps me for when I eventually am ready to cast that on. And with this particular project, it really paid off. I've already swatched like many months ago, so it wasn't like I was dreading the swatching phase or whatever. So this is a sweater that has all over baubles on it. I was having a really hard time keeping the baubles on the front side of the fabric. There were no instructions on how to deal with that issue. At work at String Things Studio, I have been making a Kobu cat by Caitlin Hunter for a sample for the store, and she writes pretty specific instructions on how to keep the baubles on the front side of your fabric. And so I followed her instructions, and then I sort of like improved upon them. Basically, she just has you like wrap the stitch after you've finished making the bauble. And if you want more specific instructions, I would highly encourage you to purchase the pattern. My improvement on it is just that I try to do that kind of really tightly and like make sure I'm physically twisting the bauble as I'm wrapping the stitch. It works phenomenally. It just inspired me to finally cast on this project. The pattern has you hold 2 yarns together, 2 lace weight yarns together, 1 alpaca. This is Knit Picks Alpaca Cloud in the colorway Charlotte. This particular base is really lovely, so I definitely recommend it, and it's inexpensive. So I'm holding it together with this, which looks all kinds of messy, but it's a gorgeous yarn. This is Kristen Vollenbein Yarns' base, a lace weight BFL that she has called Infinite Lace, and she did a limited run of it in the summer. I have totally fallen in love with BFL. It's like strong but also really soft. I had to get it before it ran out in her shop. I was gonna use her mauve color, but then the closest alpaca that I could find was this one, which is much more of a dusty purple. So I decided to try and dye it myself with her expert guidance to just try to get something that was a little bit closer to the alpaca so that I wouldn't have to over dye the alpaca, because that had been my plan. But then I noticed that one of her regular colorways, the base without the speckles looked a lot like this. So I was just like, why don't I just dye this with your formula for the base and not do the speckles? And this is not something that I would ever intend to like make available to the public, because it's absolutely Kristen's recipe, her like trade secrets. But she was very kind enough to share the formula with me so that I could just like make this particular sweater project work. And because it's such slippery yarn, I am using my signature needles. I have a very limited number of signature needles. I don't like have a set, and I don't think I'm going to buy more, because I really love the tips, how sharp they are, but I have an issue because this comes unscrewed and disconnected like frustratingly frequently, because this is such a fine slippery yarn, and I'll be doing bobbles that are like 6-stitch bobbles. I wanted to use a really sharp needle. I did not make gauge with this needle, but because I really feel like I want to use this needle, I just did the math and chose a size based on that math. Making a really lovely fabric, and this is all I have been able to do so far, but I'm really excited to get to the bobbles now. It's living in this really cute tote bag that Kristen gave me, which matches my sewing machine. It's the same. I feel like with a sweater project, the bigger the bag, the better. I really hate stuffing my sweater project into a too small bag. It makes me not want to knit out of it. It makes me not want to take the thing out of that bag, and it makes me not want to put it back in. So this bag is actually really awesome because it's enormous. It has a zipper and it can close, but it's roomy enough that I'm not concerned about the yarn getting caught in the zipper, because it's like, my project is like a good 6 or 7 inches away from the zipper, period. So it's not really as much of an issue. Just some thoughts about some bags. So I have a little bit of a yarn haul to share with you. Kristen and I have been talking about the Ingalls sweater for a long time, and you probably have noticed that she cast one on, which looks amazing. The Ingalls sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I saw her colorway, 2 of her colorways paired together in an update one time when I was over at her house shipping her yarn because I work for her. You know, I was just like, oh, these 2 would be amazing together in an Ingalls sweater. Of course, I totally fell in love with it. That combo and that pattern specifically, and she basically forced me to take it. She offered to gift a sweater's quantity to me. She's so generous with me already that I kind of like had a really hard time accepting. So I made her promise that she would let me pay for it, but she hasn't told me how much I owe her yet, so I don't know what's gonna happen with that. The color, wait for it, is Deadly Nightshade and Dead Calm. You guys, isn't this an absolutely gorgeous color combo? I am so excited about this. So excited about this. I really don't have room in my crafting schedule to do this right at the moment. I'm really excited to do it though. I'm hoping to do it sometime in the next year. Obviously, sometime in the next year. I mean, sometime in January, February, you know. Start it in January. I'd like to start this in January. But I also kind of want it to be my Rhinebeck sweater. So are you allowed to start a Rhinebeck sweater in January? I think it's fine. I don't want the pressure of making a Rhinebeck sweater right before Rhinebeck, because that shit is stressful. I have 5 skeins of Deadly Nightshade and 1 skein of Dead Calm. I just realized that they both have the word dead in them, so this is a very morbid sweater, which will be very fun. With sewing, I haven't made progress on my shirt number 1, which is right behind me, but if you watched the last podcast, I was having a hard time deciding on the shape of the neckline. With the shirt number 1 pattern, you are instructed basically to draft your own neckline. I wanted to make a V-neck but I knew that there would be some gaping issues. So I thought that maybe if I drew a V-neck and then just somehow pinched some width out of here and tucked it under this pleat, that it would work out. I decided that that was way too complicated and I just want to finish it with in a circle. I still might lower it just a tiny bit, and I think that I know that I have been procrastinating about doing this for the very silly, simple reason that I have to try it on in order to do that, and it's cold, so I don't want to be wearing a t-shirt. In other sewing related news, I cut out a Wixton kimono, which is not very exciting looking right now. It's a lovely cotton floral chambray. The print looks like the cotton plant itself. I have been treasuring this fabric for literally 6 years, and it was really hard for me to decide what kind of garment I wanted it to grow up to be. I finally decided on a Wixton kimono, and that doesn't mean I don't still long for a dress out of it, but I'm just so happy that I finally cut into it, because it's been killing me. I mean, it's been making me feel so guilty for the past 6 years that I have this fabric that I'm just like crazy about, and I'm not using it because I would rather it be a garment. So the lining is this white silk habutai, that is spelled Habutai. It's the kind of silk that's most commonly used for lining, and I bought it years ago, again, for a theatrical project that I designed the costumes for. The Wixton has a shawl collar that is supposed to be cut out of the lining for a contrast, but I decided to use this for the shawl collar because I felt like this combo, I love this combo, but like if I used the white silk, first of all, it's a lining fabric made to be a lining fabric, so I think it would like feel weird to me and like just be wrong if it were the shawl collar, but also I felt like it would have looked too tuxedo-y, you know, if I had used the white. So it's just gonna be a non-contrast shawl collar, and that's totally fine. I also changed the pocket to be this kind of shape instead of the square patch pocket. This will make more sense when you see the actual garment. It was inspired by a very specific photo that I saw on Instagram. I'll try to include it here. That is everything that I've been doing. I do want to chat about the schedule for this podcast. I feel like I have finally gotten into a little bit of a rhythm where I'm able to be a little bit more consistent. I still don't have like set schedule, but I'm hoping that that's going to change in the new year. Next week, I'm too busy, so there won't be a podcast, but I'm going to try to do a little bit of vlogging when I'm home in California for Christmas. Starting in January, I should have every Wednesday free to film a podcast. My hope is that I'll be able to edit on Wednesdays also, so that I can release a new podcast to you every Wednesday. We'll see how that works. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you more regularly. I really hope you guys have a lovely holiday, or summer if you're in Australia or South America. You might still celebrate Christmas in summertime if you're in South America or Australia. I will be back very soon with more content, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!